There are things that happen inside a dealership that most buyers never find out about. Not because they happen in a back room, but because the system is built around one simple assumption, that you don't know how it works. And it turns out that assumption is usually correct. Most people walk into a dealership and think the biggest thing to watch out for is the sticker price. They've done their research, they know the MSRP, they figure if they can save $1,000 or $2,000 off of that price, they've won. But after 25 years on the other side of that desk, I can tell you that that sticker price is the least of your problems. The real money, it doesn't move where you're watching, it moves where you're not. My name is Cedric. I spent 2 decades selling cars, and what I'm going to break down for you in this video is what I call the information gap. The space between what a buyer thinks is happening and what is actually happening inside a deal. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how dealerships are structured to profit, where the hidden pressure points live, and what every buyer needs to know before ever sitting down across from a salesperson. This is chapter 1 of the Car Buying Secrets, and it sets the foundation for everything else. So let's jump right in. Here's something that most people never realize. When you walk into a car dealership, you're not walking into one business. You're walking into 3. Dealerships operate through 3 profit centers, and each one is designed to generate revenue independently from the others. Profit center number 1 is the sales floor. This is where the vehicle price gets negotiated, and most buyers focus all their energy here. But profit center number 2 is the finance office, and this is where most of the ground a buyer just won on the sales floor gets quietly taken back. Rate markups, extended warranties, gap insurance, paint protection, products bundled into a payment so smoothly that buyers don't even realize what they agreed to until they're driving home. Profit center number 3 is service and parts. This one doesn't impact the sale directly, but it's why dealerships work so hard to keep you in their ecosystem long after you buy. But that's a conversation for another video. The reason why this is important right now is that when you only negotiate the price, you're only defending against one of the 3 front lines, and the dealership knows it. But the 3 profit centers are just the structure. What actually makes the system works, what actually keeps a buyer at a disadvantage, is something much deeper than that. The dealership's single greatest advantage over any buyer is information asymmetry. They know things you don't, and the entire process is designed to keep it that way. Here's what I mean. When you walk in, the salesperson already knows the invoice price. They know what the manufacturer is paying them in holdback. They know what incentive programs are available, some of which never get advertised. They know your credit tier within minutes of running your application. They know their monthly target and how close they are to hitting a bonus. You know the MSRP and whatever information you found on Google. That is the information gap. That's not an accident. That is the architecture of the business. Now you're probably thinking, okay, but isn't this just how every business works? The sellers know more than the buyer, and you're right, it is. But here's what makes buying a car different than every other major purchase you'll make. The average person buys a car every 5 to 7 years. The average salesperson closes a deal every single week. That experience gap, that compounds the information gap. They've had this conversation thousands of times. Most buyers are having this conversation for the first or maybe the second time in their life. That's not a fair fight, and preparation is the only thing that closes it. Actually, there's a specific moment inside a deal where the information gap does the most damage, and most buyers have no clue it's even happening. This is the most expensive mistake buyers make, and it starts with one question the moment you sit down, and every salesperson is trained to ask it. So where are you trying to keep your monthly payment? Sounds reasonable. Sounds like they're trying to help you. But what they're actually doing is shifting the entire negotiation onto one number that hides everything else. This is what I call the payment trap. And this is how it works. When a buyer is focused on the monthly payment, the dealership can move money around the deal and make it invisible. They can mark up the price as long as they stretch the loan term to keep that payment low. They can mark up an interest rate and bury it inside a payment and make it still sound affordable. They can add products into the finance office and roll it into the payment so quietly that the buyer never sees the line item. A buyer that walks in and says, "I just want to stay under $500 a month," has just handed the dealership a ceiling to work with, not a floor to negotiate from. The structure of the deal determines the monthly payment. And when you negotiate the monthly payment, you're negotiating the wrong thing. The number that actually protects you is the out-the-door price. That's the total, the taxes, the license, the fees, everything. That's the number that tells you what the deal actually costs. You're probably thinking right now, why doesn't anyone just tell buyers this before they walk in? And that's exactly why this channel exists. But there's one more layer to the information gap that operates completely behind the scenes. And this one happens well before you ever start to negotiate. When a dealership helps you finance a car, they're not just being helpful. They're acting as a middleman between you and a bank, and they get paid for that role. Here's how it works. The bank approves you at what's called a buy rate. That's the actual rate you qualify for based on your credit. But the dealership is allowed to mark up that rate before they present it to you. That markup, the difference between your buy rate and the rate you sign, that is called the reserve. And that difference goes directly into the dealership's profit. So let's say you qualify for 5% APR and the dealership presents you with 7.9% APR on $35,000 loan for over 72 months. That difference will cost you $3,500. It's completely legal, rarely disclosed, and never explained. This is the hidden layer inside the financing that the buyers don't see because they're focused on the monthly payment. They're not looking at the interest rate. They're not looking at the term. They're not looking at the cost of the loan. Buyers that walk in with their own pre-approval from their bank or credit union change this entire equation because now the dealership knows you already have a number to beat. The reserve only works when you have nothing to compare it to. Turns out everything I just walked you through has one central principle. And once you see it, the dealership experience makes sense in a completely different way. Here's the shift I want you to make. Stop thinking about a car deal as a negotiation over the price. Start thinking about it as an information problem. The dealership wins when you have less information than they do. That's the system, that's the design. But when you understand the 3 profit centers, you understand where to defend. When you understand the information gap, you know why preparation is your most valuable tool. When you understand the payment trap, you know which number actually matters. When you understand reserve, you know to walk in with financing already in hand. This isn't about being confrontational. It's not about making the salesperson's life difficult. It's about closing the gap between what they know and what you know. So you build a deal that works for you, not for the car dealership. The information gap is real, but it is closable. And that's exactly what this entire series is designed to do. Close it one video at a time. Now, I put together a free guide that goes a lot deeper on everything we covered today. It's called the 7 Insider Secrets That Dealers Don't Want You to Know. It covers the reserve, the payment trap, the finance office, and more, broken down into a simple guide that you can actually take with you. Link in the description, just free information, no catch. In the next video, I'm going to break down chapter 2, where your actual leverage lives inside the dealership. Most buyers walk right past it. And once I show it to you, you'll never approach a car deal the same way again. That video is either here or it's here. Either way, I'll see you there.